Hi everybody, my name's Ercy and welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, I'm going to be talking about what it means to declutter or curate your collection and when it comes to your books. This is something that's really important to me for a number of reasons. I want to try to kind of gather my thoughts and just talk about this because I feel like in this consumerist culture that we live in, it's very easy to say, I just want all the books, I want all of the things, we'll make room for it in our house, but I feel like that's sort of unrealistic. I know there's this sort of vision of what the perfect library looks like, and we have this vision of Belle over in the library with the rolling ladder in Beauty and the Beast, and this is like, oh my god, this is the vision. And I'm not gonna lie, I had always dreamed of for myself too. You know, I have this big house with this beautiful big library. But I feel like those are the kind of things that are a little unrealistic. You want to kind of root yourself in reality and see that at the end of the day, these books are just a thing. And gathering a lot of things can kind of overwhelm your house, and at least that's how I feel about it. The things that I say in this video are not sort of my judgment on other people. It's just sort of how I feel about the books that I bring into my home and why I don't feel bad when it comes to donating or getting rid of some books, simply because if it's a book that I've read it, I've enjoyed it, or I haven't enjoyed it, it's time to just move it on to something else, unless it's something that I feel has a lot of value in my home. So with that being said, I have a few things that I've kind of jotted down just to kind of organize my thoughts on this. The first thing I wrote was that a book at the end of the day is just a thing. In my house, I have no problem getting rid of things. I have no problem donating clothes. I have no problem donating a lot of the objects in our house. But when it comes to the books, it's a little different as far as getting rid of those, because sometimes I haven't read all of them yet. I'm bringing in a lot of books, but a lot of them still haven't been read. And so it's hard to say, I need to get rid of this because I haven't read it yet. So one of the goals that I've been giving myself is to read everything that I have on my shelves. And even though this is something that won't be done in a month, in 2 months, 6 months, a year, it's something that I want to do in order to help me curate my collection. I do have a little bit of pressure put on me because we are going to be moving in, I want to say 6 or 7 months. And so I don't want to move all of these things that I don't know if they have value, and putting in that extra labor just for things that at the end of the day won't bring value to my household is not something I really want to do. But it's harder to do that when some of these things haven't been read and you don't have a thorough opinion or a concrete opinion on what you feel about those books. It's not necessarily that you're judging the thing of the book, it's you're judging the story and the quality of the story and what that story means to you. I want to make sure that I'm curating the amount of stories that I have in my household and making sure that those stories have some sort of significance to me, or it's just something that's purely enjoyable, and it won't be something that will just be a story just to have that story when other people can actually share that story with you. With my challenge of reading everything that I have and forming my opinions on all of these books, I want to sort of share the stories I feel can go back out into the world and keep the ones that I feel have sort of significance to me, or it's something that will be of value to me and in my career field. Or there are exceptions to this because you have this idea of curating versus collecting. I want to bring down the notion of collecting just for the sake of collecting, but maybe collecting in the sort of way that I'm still curating my collection. For example, my George R. R. Martin books. I am collecting them, but I'm also curating them at the same time. When I first got into the Game of Thrones books, I was reading the mass market paperback editions of the book. And as you can see, it's starting to get really worn, like the spine's broken. I got like some tears on here, but it's still the same story. I want to possess the entirety of the series. However, I'm going to be curating them at the same time. So while I have this, I actually just received for the holidays, and I spoke about it in a book haul. This is the same book, but in a much more pretty, beautiful form that I feel is worth keeping. Well, I still haven't had the guts to get rid of this one yet, but this will be something that I will do, because it's the same thing, only this one's a lot more prettier. But at the end of the day, it's the same thing. So why am I going to have two of the same thing, and I like this one better when somebody else can have this one? And I have no problem doing that. I don't like having to have multiples of the same thing. I did the same thing with my Peter Pan book. So the Peter Pan edition that I had before was another little mass market paperback. It was missing the cover. It made me not want to read it. But then I found this little guy, and it's beautiful. And so you shouldn't judge a book by its cover, because essentially it's the same book. But me having this one makes me okay in letting go the other one and having something, even though it's a 1-for-1, I'm not having both, and I have just one that I really like and it has value to me. I feel like this has longevity because of the quality, and it's made better than the other one. And so again, the other one was already missing the cover. It had like a few rips in it because it's, you know, the texture of the paper is different, it's cheaper, but it's the same story. So I'm okay with spending a little more on having something that's of decent quality and will have longevity, rather than spending money on having all of the things that are not going to have that much quality. As far as like when I do future book hauls and stuff, one of the things that I'm going to be considering is, when I do purchase these books, is it something that, am I just buying it for the sake of a bargain, or I'm buying it for the sake of having it? One of the goals that I'm kind of setting for myself, or a limit that I'm setting for myself, is that I'm only going to be purchasing at the most 2 books a month. And so for the month of January, I've already met that, so I cannot buy anything else until the month of January is over, February begins, and I'm okay with that because there's the library, there's audiobooks that I can borrow through my library as well on Overdrive. I don't have to have all of the books, and it kind of pushes me to make me consider my choices when it comes to buying the books that I'm bringing into my house, especially because I want to have less books in my house as well. One of the ideas that I want to have as far as like the books that I bring into my household is that I want to expand upon my Latin authors collection, or even just like diverse authors and diverse perspectives, and my timeless classics. I also want to bring in books that I feel have a lot of praise, not just because of the hype of the story or the hype from the publishers, but just because of the value of the story that's in it. That's why a lot of the times if you see me reading like romance, you'll see that book is usually taken from the library or is borrowed from the library. I want to read the story, but I don't want to keep the story, because I already know that when it comes to certain romance books, if I already know what's going to happen, I don't need to watch it again, or I don't need to read it again. That's the same thing with a lot of like romantic comedy movies. Like I don't really rewatch a lot of those, because I want to use that time to like watch something else that I feel like has a lot of value. It's like I already consumed it once and there's plenty more. And the things that I do rewatch are things that just mean a little more to me, rather than just the moment of enjoyment at that moment. And again, there's nothing wrong with rewatching these kind of things. It's just something that I know I don't personally do. I don't rewatch a lot of romantic stuff. I don't reread a lot of romantic stuff. And just because it's not something that I'm really into. Things that I do reread a lot is fantasy, or some of my classics, or stuff from Latin authors, because those are the things that for me have longevity. Some of the things that you'll probably see me getting rid of or donating or passing along this year is going to be a lot of the nonfiction that I have. It's perhaps like some of the memoirs, or even like some of the YA books that I have, because I feel like those are stories of the moment, and once you've consumed that knowledge, I don't personally go back and revisit it. Somebody else can have that knowledge now. But the challenge is reading those books and forming that opinion, and not falling into like a reading slump as well. One of the biggest reasons why I have this stance on my books, and why I'm okay with letting them go after I've had an opinion on them, is because I want to curate the books in a way where my daughter or like my family members can appreciate the books that I feel are worth having, and not having so much that it doesn't give her a chance to make up her own opinions or have her own taste in the books that she's gonna want. There's gonna be plenty of books in the future that are gonna be coming out that will relate to her that don't necessarily relate to me. So why am I gonna be pushing all of these books on her that will have no value to her? So again, these are all the books that I have here have value to me at the moment. That might not necessarily be the case when she's older and she has her own collection. Like, I hope to show her that there's value in reading books as well, but I don't want to push it on her to the point where she's forced to have to take on what I feel without forming her own independent taste of what she likes, if that makes sense. So again, I want to curate what I have in order to make it something that is worth passing on to her and worth having in my household, and not just have things just for the sake of having it. So those were just a lot of random thoughts that I have as far as like my stance on why I like to curate my collection and why I'm okay with decluttering books and donating them so that way other people can have a chance with them, and why I keep certain books in my collection that I have. So there's that. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know I was rambling a lot, but I just kind of wanted to get that out there and kind of just share my thoughts on this process. You know, we live in this like consumerist society where, you know, everyone wants to have everything, and sometimes sometimes less is more. You don't necessarily have to have everything in order to be happy, and I'm okay with that. And actually having less and looking at my bookshelves and saying that I like everything on here or I love everything on here feels better than I have a lot. So I know this video was super rambly, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. I just like sharing my thoughts on books, whether it be the books that I read or just thoughts on books in general. So I hope you guys consider subscribing to my channel and follow me along on Goodreads. My account will be listed down below in the description box. And I hope you guys have an awesome day, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye!